If you're writing a story or a novel, it's not enough to have a really good idea and well-developed characters. You have to also have a well-developed plot. There's a difference between plot and well-developed plot, so pay attention. When you're first working out your story idea, you're probably dealing with surface level plot. Literally what happens and in what order. This is fine, you need to know this, but a well-developed plot will have a bit more. I like to think of a story in terms of layers. The surface level plot is the middle layer, or the ground level layer, if you will. But if you really want a well-developed and satisfying plot for your story, there are two other layers you need to be thinking about. Beneath the surface level plot is the subtext. This is the truth that lies below the surface. Here you'll find things like character backstory, motivation, things that influence the narrative without necessarily being stated. If the surface level plot is what the character says, for instance, the subtext is what that character means. If the surface level plot is what happens, the subtext is the reason for your character's choices. With me so far? Now, above the surface level plot is where you'll find things like theme and authorial intent. This is where you answer the question, why am I telling this story? And what do I want to leave my readers with at the end? How do I want them to feel? What's my main message? If you're doing this correctly, most things in the subtext and the supratext are not going to be stated directly. Instead, they are hinted at. These things have a subtle but powerful influence over everything in your story, including and especially how your readers respond to it. Because whether they find it satisfying and gripping or not will have a lot to do with whether they can sense these things are there. If you're confused about this process, how to balance these different layers, take it scene by scene. Look at a scene, write out what is happening, the surface level, and below that, write the emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions that are lying below the surface. And then above that, write down your intention for the scene. Ideally, you should be able to do this for every scene in your story or novel. If you can't, it might just be because you're in an early stage of the drafting process, and when you're writing that first draft, it's usually only surface level stuff anyway. The other layers come later. However, if you are nearing the point where you want to publish and you still don't have these three levels in most of your scenes, then you have a little bit more work to do if you want to tell a truly satisfying story. They might still be there, you might have put them in there without realizing it, but it's important that you as the writer know what they are. So do take the time to go through and answer these questions scene by scene. I promise you it's going to help a lot.